Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Nights in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Saturday, February 8th, 2025. Coming to us live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center, a Saturday edition of Hockey Night in New York pregame show as the Islanders will be taking on the Minnesota Wild, and Jessi Pierce of NHL.com will be joining us to talk about the Minnesota Wild in about 10 minutes or so. My name is Sean Cuthbert. With me, as always, is Mr. Stefen Rosner. Stefen, how are you?
I'm great. The delay was because we were working the phones.
A lot happening.
And it's primetime game. So, it's not at the exact time. It's a couple minutes after.
That's right. We were doing important things, and sometimes they delay you, but here we are for a Saturday edition of Hockey Night in New York. And before we dive into everything, I want to tell you about our wonderful sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd and unplug your game at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. We're also proud to be sponsored by Center Station Bar and Grill. Catch every Isles game with great food and drinks at 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center all season long. Also proud to be sponsored by Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. Last but not least, we are proud to be sponsored by Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company and creator of the Diamond Air Blade. Get 10% off at tovihockey.com with promo code HNINY10. And folks, big news off the bat here for Hockey Night in New York. That's right, we are hosting a viewing party at Borelli's Tap House in Long Beach on Saturday, switching things up. USA versus Canada for the Four Nations face-off. Puck drop will be at 8 o'clock. Hockey Night in New York pregame show at 6:30. Excited, going to be a big night, going to have lots of fun. Come on down. And if you're hanging out with us in the chat, you want to get your questions in for Questions Brewing, type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and we will address it later in the show. So, Stefen, the pleasantries once again out of the way. Yes, as we do every time. It's time for Experience Points, presented by Main Street Board Game Cafe, where we make our points about the Islanders' experience in the previous week.
So I keep going back to this one guy, but it's Mark Gatcomb. I mean, he's finding ways to score. He's been physical. I asked a couple of players about him and Patrick Waugh. They just love his tenacity, the way he plays the game. He plays it right. And I asked him in an interview, Gatcomb, the other day, I said, is it like a bonus when you score? And he goes, yeah, it's a bonus. He goes, my job is to hit and bring that energy. That's what got me here. That's what keeps me here. But when I could chip in, and it's a bonus for sure. And he's doing the right things. That's what Anders Lee said. He goes, when you work hard and go to the right areas, usually good things happen. And we've talked all year about how the Islanders didn't have the bottom six depth needed, scoring-wise, even defensively.
Yeah.
But now Waugh's not even throwing him out there for scoring, which obviously helps, but Gatcomb is being trusted in every moment possible. And I think that's so important when you lose a lot of guys to injury. You just love to see it from Gatcomb, because I've said it before. Gatcomb is the Kyle McLean of the Hudson Fashions. That's what it is this year. You have to find a way to stick.
Did you steal that from Twitter, or did Twitter steal that from you when you said it on the show? Because I've been seeing it multiple times since that episode.
No, I didn't see it from anywhere. I mean, it's common sense that he is that, but I think I got stolen.
I think it has. I don't know if everybody thought that very same idea themselves.
No,
so credit the man. Yeah. Credit this man.
Some other person will say they said it first, and they'll look at the time. But I didn't tweet it out. But the whole time you watch Gatcomb, you just think of McLean last year.
Yeah.
And when you look at McLean, you think of what Fashion did. And I think the one thing for Gatcomb that's important is the age and the trust immediately. And keeping it up. Like his game, the way he plays, I don't have a reason to think it'll fall off a little bit. Like Hudson Fashion got the opportunity. He was playing up and down the lineup. He had injuries that kind of took him out. Kyle McLean, this year just didn't have the same, it wasn't effort. It was just he wasn't getting the same results. Gatcomb's game is so basic. Hit anything that moves, crash the net. I don't see a reason why Gatcomb can be part of the future of this fourth line going forward.
We're going to find out. I have more to say about him later.
Okay, cool.
Okay, great. So let's move on to, do you have to have points for him?
You
started off with him. You
47,000.
40, that's a nice number.
Yeah.
All right, great.
I rounded up.
Okay, all right, moving on. Tuesday, the 4th, versus the Vegas Golden Knights, a 2-1 victory for the New York Islanders. This was a game that we knew was going to be big, especially against a tough team. The Islanders took care of business. They were outshot 34-14, but as I said on Twitter, it did not feel that way. I feel like it was a much more competitive game despite the shot disparity. You get the late first period goal from Horvat, nice little 5-hole backhand, very nice goal there. And Saad gets the equalizer in the third period, but then Brock Nelson with the tip about halfway through the third. They hang on, huge win. And of course, Ilya Sorokin, stellar in net with 33 saves.
Yeah, he's going to be the common theme going forward. He's just been that good. But to go to this game quickly, 14 shots, fewest amount of shots that the Golden Knights have ever allowed in their franchise history. They're now 0-1 when they allow the fewest goals in franchise history.
Cool.
But Horvat came down the left side with speed early in the game, missed the net. Samsonov is completely off his angle. Asked him about it. He said he was really mad at himself, but then realized he had more time. On the second time, he said that's a goal where it looks really good if it goes in, really bad if you miss. Fortunate for the Islanders, he doesn't miss. And then Brock Nelson breaks his sticks, go to the bench, cut to the front, get the deflection. I mean, it's a pretty sick shift. Siplikov hits D'Angelo, who hits D'Angelo to Romanov on the blue line. Romanov just does what he does, the basic shot, get the goal. But then, late it was Sorokin standing tall, Holmstrom blocking a shot without a glove. So that was one of those wins. Huge win because it bounced back after Florida, but also showed this team that, again, they can hang with these big dogs.
Hang with the big dogs, and they have to do it again last night and tonight. Last night, they go up to frosty Winnipeg to play the top team in the league, hang with them, 4-3 loss. But you know what? Maybe that's a loss you look at and you say to yourself, that's encouraging. You know, they hung with them. They had a huge third period, 19 shots on goal there. Palmieri gets the 4-3 goal. It looks like they have a shot to tie. You almost feel like it might happen. It doesn't, unfortunately. The Jets were riding that 7-game winning streak. Now it turns to 8. Holmstrom with another goal. Gatcombe with another goal. You just mentioned him. They had the 2-1 first period. Things fell apart in the second. What happened there?
You just can't make mistakes against this team. We saw it in Florida, too, second period, where they tied up against Florida, but then it was just failed coverages, miscommunications, and these good teams just know how to create that. It's not like the Islanders messed up and then Winnipeg said, oh, well, let's exploit that.
Yeah. The
puck movement and the way they played, they force the Islanders to get a little chaotic, and they make it count. I mean, you just can't make those mistakes against the really good teams and expect to win. You can do it against the teams where they're probably going to miss the net on those chances. But for the Islanders, they were playing so well, and then a couple of minutes of just failed coverages, failed getting back, miscommunications, and at that point, it's very hard to come back against a team like that.
Yeah, for sure. And now just to dole out some experience points for myself, I'm going to say for the New York Islanders team as a whole, 12,462.
Okay.
Just for hanging with two of the top teams in the NHL. They beat the Knights. They come close against the Jets. And it gives hope for what they might be able to do here in the second of back-to-backs against Minnesota. But I feel like they got a shot. I think it's encouraging to see what they did in these 2 games leading into tonight. They're certainly not throwing the towel in on this season, that's for sure.
Right, and I think the whole hope here is that you're playing back-to-back. The way they played that third period, I mean, they were all over them. Cizikas is, a couple inches away from tying it. Hellebuck gets the glove out there. Hellebuck's one of the best goalies in the league for a reason, or the best. And you hope, though, that their 19 shots, the way they just pressed, they do it against Minnesota, because Minnesota also is rested. Right. The Islanders are the team on the back-to-back. And on the road, probably the hardest period is obviously the third because you're getting exhausted. But at the same time, you got to come out firing at all cylinders. I think it's Gustafsson versus Sorokin. And just got to make Gustafsson work because while they're rested, they don't have to go guns blazing to start this game. They're going to want the Islanders to tire themselves out. So strong start's important, but also scoring first would be huge in this one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that will do it for Experience Points presented by Main Street Board Game Cafe. Unplug your game and raise your experience at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play, food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game from old favorites to the hottest new releases. We have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join? Our Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, Lorcana, and organized play communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd. Unplug your game. That'll do it for Experience Points. We're going to take a break, and then we'll go on the line with Jessi Pierce.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center. Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Did you have a nice break? Well, it's time to get back on the couch for more Islanders therapy on Hockey Night in New York.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for On the Line, presented by Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company. And joining us right now from NHL.com is Jessi Pierce. Jessi, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Got a lot of snow dumped on us here in St. Paul. Part of the season, I suppose, but we're good. One more game before the NHL break here, boys.
Yeah, so we heard. A lot of snow. We got snow coming down here as well. It's that time of year. But look, big tilt for the Islanders in the Wild tonight up there in Minnesota. Just to start, for our audience here on Long Island, who are the Minnesota Wild this season? Neck and neck between like spots 2 to 4 in the Central Division right now with Dallas and Colorado. Who is this team this year?
I have a hard time putting my finger on it exactly, and I think they do too. I don't know if they fully know their entire identity. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they somewhere in the middle? I think they're somewhere in the middle. You look at the start of this season that they had, and they were right up there in the top 5 very consistently. Now, not to say that they've fallen off of that pattern, but they struggled to beat the top teams in the West. They've struggled against the Edmontons, the Vegases, the Colorados, the Winnipegs, right? Which is a little bit concerning as you start to wind down. And now they're without Kirill Kaprizov, who had surgery on a lower body injury last week. But they're still, fighting, competing. They've got good goaltending in Philip Gustafsson, who will be starting tonight against the Isles. But the defense needs to pick it up, I think, a little bit. And you need to start to see a little bit more from that secondary scoring, especially with 97 out. So they're somewhere in the middle, guys. I can't figure it out, but it's better than seasons of past.
Hey, Jessi, Stefen here. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Marc-Andre Fleury's last year. I just want to get your thoughts on what it's been like to cover this guy, because he seems like an absolute gem.
I am so honored and privileged to have been able to cover him. You always knew from the outside that he was a special person, not just as a player, but off the ice. You heard about the characteristics, the charisma that he has, and all of it's entirely true. Like, I remind Wild fans, you guys are so lucky to see this type of player in a Minnesota Wild uniform, because we don't have too many of those Hall of Famers as of yet in organizational history. But yeah, always with a smile, such a genuine, authentic person. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago, there was a Make-A-Wish kid who came out, joined the team on the ice as a goalie, and Marc-Andre Fleury took the time on his own accord to help him with some different moves and techniques and all of that. That's just the kind of person he is. Plus, he's hilarious. He's so funny to get up to his antics, all of that stuff that's been well documented by now. I mean, I want one more year, because that's just me being selfish, because I want one more year of coverage of this guy. But yeah, he is everything that's ever been said about him.
So, Jessi, obviously the injury to Kaprizov hurts this team. They're waiting for him to come back. But how's the team performed since he's been down? You've been having great seasons out of Rossi and Boldy. How's this team come together since he's gone down, and they're trying to keep the ship afloat?
Unfortunately, it's not the first time that they've been without Kaprizov. He was injured for a length of period last season. He was injured for a part of this year as well before he decided to have surgery on that lower body injury. He was out for, I believe, 12 games, and the Wild went 7-5 without him. So they know how to step up, and you are getting that contribution from Marco Rossi, namely. He's a player that I think has been really consistent in Kirill's absence. Joel Eriksson, I'd like to see a little bit more out of him, a little bit more out of Matt Zuccarello and Matt Boldy. But those are the guys that you really want to see find their way onto the production sheet, want to see them really get that offense generated, that Kirill is the guy to do it. So you see more of that this year than you have in times past when you haven't been with Kaprizov, but still need a little bit more, because as we know, it's going to be hard to replace 97, but you're going to have to find the goals somewhere.
Looking at the deadline, I know it's less than a month away, but for the Wild, I guess, is their biggest trade, I guess, decision going to be to replace Kaprizov, or is there another area on the team where they have to really focus their attention?
It's a great question. I actually asked Bill Guerin that exact thing when he had his media availability with us. I said, how does this change your approach to the trade deadline? He said, it could. Bill Guerin's the type of guy who's going to be taking calls at all times. So whether Kaprizov was injured or not, he was going to probably see what he could do. Now, as we all know, the salary cap here in Minnesota is not in the best situation. Plus, you have Ryan Hartman suspended as of right now, which makes things very difficult to move some different pieces. And you've got a lot of guys under contract. I think Billy will try to do something possibly in the bottom six forward area. I think you're getting enough from your top six, even without Kaprizov, that you can kind of get by. But your bottom six, you need to see a little bit more of. Now, you did that during this last game. We saw the bottom six contribute, but if anywhere, it's going to be in the offense, because the blue line is set up for many years to come. You got Zeke William coming in, hopefully this year after his Denver season. But in general, I think it wouldn't surprise me if Billy finds a bottom six forward to add into the mix.
So bottom six forward, fair enough. But there's one name here on Long Island that's been getting linked to Minnesota, and curious to hear your thoughts on that. Apparently, recently it's been is squashed, actually, with some help of Stefen Rosner over here. But Brock Nelson's name has come up around here that that he was destined to go to Minnesota at the very least at the end of the season. But is he a guy they would even look at if he was even available at the trade deadline?
There have never been many strong centermen in the history of the Minnesota Wild organization. So Brock Nelson certainly fits that role. Plus, we love our Minnesota guys here, right? You always are going to have that in the mix, especially as Nelson is kind of on the older end of his career, right? So to have him come home and have the swan song potentially here, it's exciting. I definitely think Bill Guerin has an interest. I think the way that Brock plays the game, I don't need to tell you guys, is a style that Guerin really appeals to. And as I said, having a strong up the middle center is something Minnesota has been constantly in dire need of for almost its entire existence. So I have heard it's been squashed too, which, it's fine. It's all right. I would love to have a Brock Nelson, but I'd like to spend money a little bit elsewhere, spread it out. So yeah, I don't know. I think the War Road fans would be very disappointed if he didn't make his way out this way, but I as well don't see it totally happening.
You mentioned Zeke William, and obviously he's one of the best defensemen in the country. Do you view him as, or the organization, they view him as untouchable?
I think so. I really think so. I think they're very, very excited. I mean, how can you not? You watched what he did at World Juniors. You've seen what he's done in his history with the Pioneers here too, his very young history with the Pioneers. And I think they really like the way the blue line is setting up. They went and got David Jiricek via trade with Columbus earlier this year. And while Jiricek has spent, a lot of time down in the minors, he's gotten a quick sniff up here. I think they're building for the future. They're looking at that. You've got Brock Faber. You've got Jake Middleton, who's really come into his own. Plus, you still have Spurgeon and Brodin as that veteran presence. But add in Jiricek, add in William in there, I would definitely see Bill Guerin would need a heck of a whole lot to even tempt at the idea to get rid of a guy like Zeke.
So, Jessi, focusing on tonight, how do you like the matchup for the Wild against the Islanders tonight? They kind of changed identities once the calendar turned to 2025. They're going on this long run here. They're giving teams like Vegas and even Winnipeg last night good games. What's the scouting report from the Minnesota point of view in the Isles and what they're going to do against the Wild tonight?
I think Minnesota's happy that they're getting them on the second half of a back-to-back. They finally get to have a tired team come into their barn, which isn't too often. Home ice has not been very favorable for Minnesota this year. It's been a real struggle to get that focus, that mindset. And John Hines has been asked numerous times about what it is about being home that they can't quite put their best foot forward. You saw them play a really solid 60 minutes against the Carolina Hurricanes the other night. I think Minnesota's going to have to do that in order to compete with the Islanders, because as you mentioned, they're a handful. They gave Winnipeg a hefty dose. You've got strong up the middle players as well and good offense. I think Minnesota knows that they're going to have to be ready to go at puck drop, take advantage of the fact that New York was up in Winnipeg and probably came in a little late, I'm expecting, with the snow too. I'm sure it was not an ideal travel situation for them.
Right.
So Minnesota knows they're going to have to take advantage of that from puck drop.
Last one for me here. Obviously, Bill Guerin's the general manager for Team USA. Your unbiased opinions on how Team USA will do at the Four Nations face-off.
I worked with and interned at USA Hockey, so you can't ask me to be unbiased about this. I
okay, you're biased
so much, right? USA is going to be so strong, right? I mean, big question mark surrounds Quinn Hughes and what his status is. I know Bill Guerin was asked about that, I believe, yesterday, and he said he didn't want to comment because it is kind of an issue that he's dealing with. But I think Team USA on paper looks so incredibly good, and so does Canada. And, no disrespect to Sweden and Finland as well, but I think Canada and USA are the teams to beat. They've just got really strong depth on offense. Plus Brock Faber, a Minnesota favorite here, will be probably a top 4 defenseman on the blue line. So I'm excited. I personally am excited. I don't know how you guys are feeling about the 4 Nations face-off. I'm pretty pumped to see some best on best international competition for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm personally pumped up for it. I'm not so sure how the rest of the area is. It seems a little lukewarm. We'll find out. Funny enough, we're hosting a viewing party for the U.S.-Canada game next week, so we'll see. But I was going to ask you kind of the question up there. Like, look, it's not the Olympics. It's not the World Cup. But it's finally some best-on-best competition, albeit only 4 teams. But is there buzz up there in Minnesota for it?
Yeah, I mean, the World Junior Championships are coming to St. Paul next season, too. So that international buzz has already begun as far as getting people excited. It's funny because we're the state of hockey, right? Everybody talks about it. Sometimes I think when it comes to international competition, depending on how many Minnesotans are on the roster, that kind of phases the level of interest. But with the Timberwolves doing very poorly as well, I think people will turn their attention to 4 Nations to check in on Team USA, get a little amped for 26 World Juniors as well. We're hosting a watch party ourselves for the U.S.-Canada game, so I'm going to do everything I can to get people on board with me to toss on some red, white, and blue and cheer on best of best, because I think it's going to be great. I'm so excited. As long as all of our players come out unscathed injury-wise, I think it's going to be a really great NHL break.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And before we let you go, maybe just tell us a little bit about the Bar Down Beauties podcast that you co-host.
Yeah, no, Bar Down Beauties. We've been at it for about 6 seasons now. New released every Tuesday on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube, so you can watch myself and Kirsten Kroll talk hockey and other things. It's a lot of fun. We love it. Again, live watch party for Team USA here at Tom Reed's next Saturday as well. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Jessi, really appreciate you coming on a pinch here. It's been great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night, and go USA.
Go USA, guys. I'll talk to you.
All right, Jessi. Take care. All right, that was Jessi Pierce, Minnesota Wild correspondent for NHL.com and co-host of the Bar Down Beauties podcast. Yeah, good stuff.
You did great. No, it's good. I mean, colleague. Love to plug colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, if you want the best information out of Minnesota, she's on all of it. So
there you have it. So, Stefen, why don't you tell us some more about Tovi Hockey?
Yeah, so let me do that. Tovi Hockey, the innovative hockey technology company, is the creator of the 100% solid carbon fiber diamond air blade, the only other NHL-approved braid technology. With superior feel and increased swing speed due to its perforated design, unparalleled control, thanks to the micro-grip blade texture, greater durability courtesy of its patented aerodynamic cross-beam construction, and unparalleled shooting accuracy thanks to its large sweet spot, Tovi Hockey is changing the game by making the next-gen stick of tomorrow available today. Go to ToviHockey.com to check out their great selection of sticks, gear, and apparel, and use promo code HNINY10 for 10% off your order. Tovi Hockey, stronger, faster, superior.
Stronger, faster, superior. And once again, we're going to try to be that after another break. Thanks for hanging with us live here at Hockey Night in New York. The train rolls on when we get back.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan. Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more Isles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The train rolls on, the LIRR, right into Center Station in Rockville Center, presenting this wonderful What's on Tap segment. We're going to talk about what's on tap for the New York Islanders and for hockey in general, because things are switching up after this weekend. But starting with tonight, big game, Islanders versus the Wild, 8 p.m. start. This is a game where We talked about this last week. A successful week for the Islanders might be 1-1-1. They have a chance
we
to
had
go
talked about
2-1,
that,
right? So I guess we're satisfied with either a win or an overtime loss here. But let's get greedy. You look at how they played against Vegas. You look at how they played last night against Winnipeg. Maybe even on the second end of back-to-backs, even with their starting goalie playing back-to-backs himself, maybe they can pull off 2 points today.
And Jessi made a great point that the Wild have struggled at home. And they struggled against the top teams in their conference. And I'm not saying the Islanders are a top team, but the way they've played since January 1st, you kind of can't look at the Islanders and say, well, they're the same team they were in November. Like, this is a different team. Can they do it consistently after this 2-week break? Who knows? But right now, the Islanders are taking down top teams. So you can't take them lightly. So if the Islanders get out on top early, like we mentioned before, they have the chance to take 2 points. And given how this month has gone, and January into February here, to end it, a 2-week break on a win, fly back home, or if you're Brock Nelson flying to, Boston or Montreal,
right?
Like, that's ideal. You don't want to send on this flight home in the last 2 games before the break and get no points, right? So I think getting a point's ideal, but 2 points can make you, 2 points within a wild card spot if things go well?
So here's the breakdown. Detroit lost today to Tampa. No, that's fine. It's not that dramatic.
I don't want to do it anyway.
Thank you. So Detroit lost to Tampa.
Yes.
So that means they stay stationary today, right? We still have to wait to find out what happens with Boston. I believe they're playing Vegas tonight.
I believe it's going on right now.
Yes, and then there's one other game of interest. That is Columbus. Columbus is playing somebody tough. Are they playing the Rangers tonight? They're playing somebody tough tonight.
We're going to get an update right now.
Yeah. Jake's going to get it for us, but I think it is the Rangers?
So, the Knights beat the Bruins in regulation.
Done. Okay, great stuff.
And then Columbus is playing... Yeah, the Rangers.
Look at that. My memory's not completely faulty just yet. So that hasn't happened yet.
That has not.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Shesterkin's hurt.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
He's out, 1 to 2 weeks, I think, with an upper body?
Yep.
Okay. So, with Boston losing, Detroit losing, if Columbus loses tonight, the Islanders can pull within 2 points of the Red Wings for the second wild card spot with a win tonight.
They got to win.
If they get a point, they can get 3 points. And then if Columbus wins and the Islanders win, they're still 3 points out. So you're looking at 3 to 4 points at worst, and then 2 points if they win and Columbus doesn't get a win.
And they would have a game in hand, right?
I didn't look that far.
Oh, come on, Sean.
Come on, man.
Well, come on.
Jeez, all off the cuff
All
here.
right, so the point of the matter is the Islanders need to do their job first, and then hopefully they get help from around the league.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure as far as tonight goes, they can't be any worse than 3 to 4 points out, and they could be as good as 2 to 3 points.
They cannot wake up tomorrow in a wild card spot. Correct.
Right, but they're going to be in a pretty decent spot, certainly in a spot where Lou's not going to be looking to sell.
So I don't think a loss tonight, I don't think any outcome tonight changes Lou's mind.
Correct.
But
absolutely.
Yes, it would definitely help the aura, the mindset, even the players that are like, you're going to a break and you're sitting there and working out over the break or just trying to relax. Like, feeling really 2 points out is so much different mentally than 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So this would be ideal.
Absolutely. So that's what's on the table tonight. We'll see what happens there. Then after the game tonight, you have, I think, a couple of games to round out the schedule for
tomorrow,
the NHL. It has nothing to do with the Islanders, though. No real bearing there. So then 2-week break for the Four Nations face-off. I'm excited about it. Stefen, how do you feel about it?
I just am nervous for the players that are going and if there are injuries that happen, how it's going to affect their season or the deadline or things like that. We've talked about Brock Nelson before, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. Yeah. I spoke to some people today, but Brock Nelson's going to the Four Nations face-off, and if the Islanders do think about moving him and he gets hurt, that's a major issue. But even if he gets hurt regardless and the Islanders aren't selling him, that has huge impacts. And I don't know. I get why it's important to represent your country, but like Quinn Hughes or Pietrangelo, like there are players that may not be going because it's not worth hurting their franchise going forward. So I'm more hesitant. Like I want them to have fun, but if it's a full all-out tournament, there are going to be injuries. It just happens with the sport. So I would be nervous about that.
Listen, if you're one of these players in this situation, even though it's not the Olympics, it's not the World Cup, it's still best on best. And this is really the first time you're going to see U.S. Canada McDavid Matthews. You had the whole North American team years ago that really didn't cover it too well. But now you have a situation where they're both representing their respective countries here. Best on best. These teams are going to go all out for sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I would just be nervous because things can happen, and you just don't want injuries to happen. But that being said, I mean, this is probably Brock's career is towards its end. Like this, they're not running out of time to represent your country, and I think for him, given his legacy and things like that, it's pretty important. Yeah, no doubt about it. So if you just want to look at the schedule real quick, if you're excited for this thing, Wednesday it starts Canada versus Sweden. That's 8 o'clock. Thursday, USA kicks off against Finland. And then, of course, Saturday you have an afternoon game, Finland versus Sweden at 1 p.m. And then that night, 8 o'clock, USA versus Canada. The first big game for those two teams. That's going to be awesome. Once again, viewing party at Borelli's Tap House in Long Beach. Going to have a lot of fun there. Raffles, prizes, 50-50. Pre-game Hockey Night in New York pregame show at 6:30. Always a good time. And then the puck drop is at 8 p.m. And then we'll see what happens from there. We might get a U.S.-Canada final because they look like the favorites.
If you don't get a U.S.-Canada final, something went seriously wrong. Just absolutely wrong. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Islanders fans, Sunday night is Hockey Night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York, the best night of the week for any Islanders fan.
Thanks for sticking with us here at Hockey Night in New York. You heard that sound. That means it's time for Hero of the Week. So, Stefen, give us your hero.
My hero is Simon Holmstrom. He gets a big goal last night, and just the rush chance, the fact that he holds on to the puck after he gets it back, that's a confident player. And he does throw it in. Is an accidental goal. I think he deflects off a stick and goes in. But the big news for this goal is that it gave him 30 points on the air. It's surpassing his career high there. You also look at his shooting percentage. This year he's shooting 25%. He shot 20.8% last year. So this, not only is he shooting a little more lately, just the confidence up. So I think it's so important to see this guy because we questioned, who is Simon Holmstrom?
Who is he?
And this year, we kind of figured out that, could he be a top-line player? Probably not. But is he a bottom-six player? No, probably not. He's playing a bottom-six role right now, but he could be a second-line. Like, for example, if the Islanders did move Kyle Palmieri, Simon Holmstrom proving that he could probably be that guy that slides in there, power play, penalty kill, and provide the offense when needed. So it's only a positive for the Islanders. They developed this guy, and he's paying off. But we talk so much that the Islanders don't need bottom-six guys. They need to find a top-six threat. Mm-hmm. And I think the way Holmstrom's playing, the way he's bought into himself, like trusting his abilities, you're seeing him do everything. And if he could be a top second-line player for the Islanders going forward, that's huge for them.
Yeah, I had him this is 2 weeks in a row for him now. I had him last week. He has another good week. That's 2 weeks in a row for Holmstrom, and he looks good. And, you talk about that high shooting percentage. You just wonder if that's going to kind of average out over the course of time. But I think the big thing for him is just confidence. Andrew Gross talked to us about that last week. It's just, that's half the game here. You have the talent, you have the ability, that's great, but if you're not in the right mindset, you're only going to do so much. You look at the Sammy Boldukes of the world, right? Guy who has the tools, couldn't put it together at the NHL. We don't know if he ever will. Simon Holmstrom, I think he's kind of been up and down since he's come up. He's been streaky, where you see promise, you see ability, and I always remember whenever you're asking some of his teammates about him, they always rave about how good he is and how talented he is, and it's just a matter of time until he puts it together, and maybe finally we're seeing that in front of our eyes this season. So hopefully he's going to be a guy who's going to be a big piece of this team for the New York Islanders. And as for my hero, you stole a little bit of my thunder earlier in the show because Mark Gatcomb is my guy.
You're on the Gatcomb train?
Yes, I'm riding it. They have to change his jersey on the press photo, though. They still have him in the Canucks jersey. But Gatcomb, I don't have to really repeat what you said earlier, but he's basically juiced up the fourth line. And you can make an argument that he's juiced up the team, too, just with his energy, his hitting. He gets that other goal the other night, nice little backhand, puts it in there, and maybe there's a little skill to come with the grit, right? So maybe this is a guy who can make that fourth line be a little more reliable, as we talked about back when you made him your hero, saying maybe that fourth line can kind of reintroduce a new identity with him at the forefront of it. And I guess the one question that you got to ask here, kind of going off of that whole joke you have of the Hudson Fasching, Kyle McLean kind of guy, they've fallen off since. They've kind of had some struggles since they had their breakout, right? And, these are going to be the new young, bottom six guys for the team. And there's obviously been some struggles there. Hudson Fasching with some injuries as well. The question is, can Gatcomb keep it up? Is he going to be a guy who can maintain this level, or is this another flash in the pan situation?
Yeah, that's up to him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you look at the other guys, they got opportunities and they stuck, but it hasn't been easy for both of Fasching, and I've talked to McLean about it. He wasn't happy with his first half. I brought that up to Wah the other day, and Wah goes, I think Kyle's just being hard on himself.
Mm-hmm.
It can't help when your line mates are being rotated all the time. Like McLean was trying to handle being a first full year NHLer, and then every other night he had a different left winger, a different right winger. That's got to be tough when you're trying to play just your game. I think that was one thing also. He wasn't playing center at times. Sometimes he was on the wing, so different. So I think Gatcomb has helped McLean settle in and gain confidence. But yeah, you look at Gatcomb, and if he just keeps his game simple and plays the basic game, I don't see a reason why it would fall off. Energy, like even with McLean and Fasching, they don't lack energy when out there. Fasching, the injury probably slows him down in what he wants to do, but McLean, it was just about going to the right areas. He was hard on the puck and forechecking, but there were times where he's making those mental mistakes. Gatcomb's not a guy that wants the puck on his stick too long. Like he gets the puck deep, chips it in, goes to work, and he goes to the right areas. Like if you're in hockey, a high IQ guy like Gatcomb, your game shouldn't fall off because you just got to go and find space. And he scored those goals because he's done that. So I would think that Gatcomb has a better chance at lasting, and it's so important too. You mentioned it. The identity had been the fourth line for this team forever.
Right.
And he's like the first player that's come in and actually played the Cal Clutterbuck role, minus the chirps. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel with this. If the Islanders are going to keep this group together and add, there's no point in reinventing the identity. You're just adding more talent to the identity.
Sure.
So I think the fourth line, the way it's played now, I wouldn't pencil Pierre Engvall in there as a no doubter. Like on a deep team, maybe Slipikov's there, or even a Fasching goes back in there. But a line that plays heavy like that, and being able to throw out there in the big moments and bring the intensity, like that's what gave the Islanders success. And there's no reason why they should deviate from that if they have the players that can do that. And right now, Gatcomb's proving that he could at least play a part in keeping that identity going, just a little younger.
There you go. So there are your heroes, Simon Holmstrom, Mark Gatcomb. We'll see if they can be heroes tonight up in Minnesota. And now I tell all of you about Isles Fix. Islanders Country, get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at islesfix.substack.com. And now we roll on to the Snake Den.
Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We missed him last week, but he is back this week in the den. Jake, welcome back. How you been, buddy?
Thank you. I've been good. You know, at first I was hoping the show would be tomorrow night so I don't have to watch the Super Bowl. I hate both teams.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm doing good.
We had a feeling that the viewership would suffer just a bit
Yeah.
if we did the show tomorrow night. So
Just a tad.
So we decided to do it tonight. Sorry to put you out, buddy, but you're
That's fair.
here. Do you have a take from the Snake Den?
I do. You know, I mean, we're getting closer to the trade deadline and Four Nations coming up, and I would say the stove is hot. There's
The
been a
stove
lot.
is hot.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, there's a lot of rumors flying around, so I just wanted to talk about Lou.
Okay.
So,
And I will
Be
piggyback-
careful.
And I will piggyback off of that.
Be careful.
yeah.
There is a
So,
window right there.
I mean,
and
I
a
think
red dot. It's crazy. Yeah.
I think it's important to think about what Lou's done since he's been here.
Okay.
So just to put things in perspective,
Sure.
in the 21st century, so that's since 2000. Just, you know, I know, crazy, right? Before Lou got here, the Islanders made the playoffs 7 out of 17 seasons. Since Lou's been here, they've made it 5 out of 6 times.
That's
And,
a much higher percentage.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens this year. It's
Sure.
too early to tell, but you know, at least they're competing to maybe make that 6 out of
Yeah,
7.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's time we give him a little bit of flowers because I mean, before he was here, the team, you know, sucked for a little while, to put it bluntly.
It's an appropriate word.
It's nice to actually watch an Islanders team that's gonna compete each year, whether they get in the playoffs or not. They're fighting for spots. And part of that has to do with what he does. He goes out and acquires the Bo Horvat trade. Huge. He's becoming a franchise cornerstone. I mean, granted, there are some things that are like, what the heck? Like the Pierre Engvall contract. But with the cap going up,
yeah.
that looks a little better. Also, the contracts that he has given out, too, those are going to look a little bit better. Having Barzal at 9.15. Sorokin's contract will look a lot better, too. And now he has
Horvat's
a
locked
chance.
in too.
Yeah. Now he has a chance to maybe go out and get some high-powered young star. I would love if Elias Pettersson came to the Islanders. I don't think it's going to happen necessarily, but still, I have faith in Lou, whatever he decides to do.
Okay, I'm sure there's at least half the chat right now grumbling at what you have to say and completely disagree, but I think there's credence to what you're saying here. And look, at the very least, whenever the Lou Lamoriello term ends here on the island, the bar has been raised.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. Now, has it been raised high enough? That's for you to decide, because let's face it, the bar was very low before he showed up, right? I mean, making the playoffs is nice, but then maybe you look, well, it's funny. I was about to use Toronto as an example, but like, even though they're regular season darlings, it's got to be excruciating to watch them bow out in the first round. But there's plenty of teams around the NHL now. You can look in Colorado, you can look at Dallas, teams that not only make the playoffs, but they're contenders, right? And they do it year in, year out. They find ways to keep competing. You can even look at Washington now. We all thought that they were going to hit the pit of the NHL. Yep. Now they're at the top of the league because they have some great management going on there, and they figure out a way to retool.
And great LTIR space.
You can't rule you can't rule that out either. But anyway, the bar's been raised here on the island. Maybe, look, it's funny to say you're spoiled by 2 conference finals runs, but when you go from the rags to riches as an Islander fan, right? Yeah. Previous to that, like, that was huge. That was, I mean, for me, just to see that happen was amazing, right? And then you get greedy and you're like, okay, we've seen them do it. Now let's see them keep doing it. And they kind of fall back a little bit here. And now, you know, they're in this mushy middle area where we're waiting to see if they can escape it and if they can kind of sneak out like Washington did. And we'll find out. But no, I'm with you. I think I'm always going to look at Lamoriello's tenure fondly. Perfect? No. But definitely one of the better tenures for me as a fan of the team, just enjoying what the team's done on the ice. And
you mentioned it too, and like once Lou decides to call it quits, there's still going to be players here signed from his contract. So he's going to have a major effect on the future of his team, and we'll see through the deadlines. But you mentioned Matthew Barzal. We should probably get to him.
Yep.
Per Pierre LeBrun, Matthew Barzal had a minor procedure on his left kneecap, which got destroyed on that shot by Radish.
Yeah.
The timetable he gave was 6 weeks. We asked Patrick Waugh if there's a chance that Barzal could be back before the end of the season. He didn't know. I'd be weird to share timetables because you don't know how someone's going to react. You know how long it's going to take. These are freak athletes, but you never know someone's body. Like, I would be very shocked if he was back before the end of the season, if we even see him in the playoffs. I get that idea that maybe he's probably out. I don't know. I just think timelines right now are tough. He said he had the procedure, I think, on Thursday, so hopefully we do get some kind of timeline. But right now he's out, and definitely I wouldn't put him into any plans for the regular season, maybe the playoffs, but you know, you want to be a doctor and look up all these things. But what could he have possibly done, right? Like if he's having surgery, did he tear a tendon, or like, I know if you blow out your knee, sometimes they have to put screws and stuff in there, but we don't know. So I think a timeline right now, everyone should be skeptical until he comes back. But him having surgery obviously is not ideal. Like, for example, we were told Noah Dobson doesn't have surgery. That obviously limits the timeline to not being 6+ weeks or whatever it is. Like, Dobson gets skate. The fact that Barzal had surgery, it's going to probably be longer than people initially thought, if they thought he would be back sooner than later, because you need to have to heal, things like that. So be wary of the timeline with that. But Barzal being out long term, now the Islanders will probably, if they want to make a move, put him on LTIR at some point. Maybe they go the Vegas route where they, you know, if he comes back for the playoffs, they don't care about the salary cap. But I would just be hesitant for any timeline right now because we really don't know. Okay, so Jake, you got anything else for us, pal?
I do not. I mean, I'm excited for Four Nations.
That's what I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, also, like with Stefen's point about players getting injured and stuff like that, obviously have those cautions too, but I think it's...
I guess the good thing is it's a very tiny tournament.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's a short little round robin, one finals game, it's done. It's not a full-on tournament.
The most amount of games that you could play is 4, so...
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully the only thing that gets hurt is egos. That's it.
I am excited to see that, though. I think it's going to be cool to see a team that has, for Canada, you have Crosby and...
if Crosby plays.
Crosby and...
He's missing tonight's game due to an injury.
Crosby and McDavid, and then McKinnon. And then you got, in the USA, I mean, having 2 sets of brothers is pretty cool.
And Jake, before we let you go, what is your DraftKings FanDuel Caesars Palace betting app take for tonight? What's going to happen tonight between the Islanders and the Wild?
3-2 overtime win for the Islanders. Minnesota's own Brock Nelson nets the overtime winner.
Wow. Nice dreams.
Yeah.
Nice dreams. I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
So too.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Snake Den. Now, Stefen, you were talking about Barzal's injury. I know you want to talk about Brock Nelson, but real quick, this 2-week break, is there any chance of somebody coming back by the time the Islanders get in the ice?
Yeah, it's possible. Well, coming back and being on the ice is 2 different things. I think you will see at the tail end of this, you'll see Dobson and Pulock skating. That was part of their plan. Hogberg was given a 4-week timeline with whatever he had with his hand or wrist, so maybe he'll be on the ice. But Mike Riley's still out indefinitely. He'll skate like he's been skating. Barzal, you're probably not going to see. Scott Mayfield didn't travel. There was no update on his status, but I guess the hope is that if he's on IR and he's being called day to day or whatever, that he can get on the ice as well. But I don't think you're going to get I don't think anybody will be back full contact by the end of the break, but I think you might get signs of certain people like a Dobson and Pulak inching to get back there. Okay, so let's touch on Brock real quick. Yeah, so Brock Nelson, obviously the other day, and we're going to play a clip here. I spoke to Brock about the rumors that he was going to Minnesota. So talked to industry sources today. There was a thing that went out that the Islanders had offered him an extension. Talked to a couple of people. He has not signed a contract yet. So that means one thing here is that he's going into the Four Nations break, not having a contract in hand. And why is that important? Well, if he's not going to get traded, he doesn't have a contract in hand, there's risk involved here by not moving him. And I don't believe, talking to people, they don't have the thought that Brock Nelson is going to get moved. They think Lou really wants to keep him. Mm-hmm. But obviously we've seen this before with John Tavares, whereas if you really want to keep a guy and you don't want him to test free agency, because you never know, like once he tests free agency, not saying Minnesota's a good fix, I don't think they are in terms of trade deadline, but who does he talk to in the summer that says, hey, we could offer you more? So I think the plan is for the Islanders to re-sign him. But the more time that goes by, like he's going to Four Nations, what happens if he gets hurt? How does all that impact the trade market? So right now, Brock Nelson does not have a contract extension. I do want to get to the quote. I asked Brock about the rumors of him going to Minnesota because Buccigross said it on a broadcast that it was the worst kept secret in hockey, and this was his great response.
I don't know, that's a funny one. I know somebody said it on a broadcast.
Buccigross mentioned it. He said it's the biggest known secret in hockey.
Yeah, I mean, if he knows the deal, I guess have him let me know. I don't know. That's nothing that I've thought about or anything like that. And I think it's also just an easy one to say that for any Minnesota guy that they'd love to go back and play for Minnesota. But I don't know. That's just part of the outside noise. I said not really thinking about that. Just trying to play and worry about here and. All that stuff will kind of sort itself out, and let Butchie and the other guys can kind of speculate what they think is going to happen. Because I know that they're not always right, but
So that was him being honest. I mean, listen, could he sign with the Wild in the summer? Maybe, but right now, one thing you could tell is that Brock's focused on this team. Brock focused on winning. Brock knows that it'll all work itself out. One way or another, he's getting money. Right? Like he's going to get paid. I do have a story dropping on Monday, but I did talk to Brock about how much the decision of staying with the team that you've been with your whole career, like how much does that weigh on your decision? And it weighs on him a lot. So I think if the two sides come to an agreement on money-wise, I think years, like there was rumored a 3-year deal, like that makes a lot of sense to me. 3 by 7 makes a lot of sense, but I also think Brock Nelson earned the right to test the market, see what the number is, and go back to the Islanders and say, hey, I've taken team-friendly deals, whatever. I'm one of the top 10 scoring centers in the league year in, year out. Like, here's a number that I think works out. So the Islanders have to make that decision, but I think the goal is to keep Brock Nelson around. I do not think he's going to be traded. I've mentioned it before that I think the Islanders should move him because I don't think the trade-off, signing him short term or getting a pick, a prospect, and those kind of things that could alter a franchise. I still think trading him makes sense, but we know how the reality is. The Islanders are in a playoff spot or close to it. Lou has never shown a willingness to move one of his top guys when there's a chance. So I don't think Brock Nelson will be traded. I think if the Islanders do trade someone else, if you're going to bring Brock Nelson back, then you probably got to find a way to move Palmieri. But that being said, if the Islanders are going to go for it, they have newfound cap space. If they LTI Barzal, I wouldn't be shocked if the Islanders don't sell it all and they strictly buy and they move contracts out at the draft.
I would say the likelihood of selling it all is slim to none right now.
You could sell and buy. I just don't think they're going to sell.
They would have to really just, crap the bed in those games between the return from the Four Nations face-off and the trade deadline. I think outside of that, they're going to be close enough. They're going to be within striking distance of a spot, and they're going to go for it. But it's just funny how, one quote on a TV broadcast can send a whole fan base and I guess NHL base, fan base in a tizzy talking about this. I mean, it's kind of irresponsible of Buccigross if there wasn't anything to it. You know what I mean? Because, I know the Islanders don't need that. I'm sure some people in that organization spit some coffee out when they heard that come out, right? But, they even had us here saying a week ago, sounds like he's not coming back, right? And
that's why you go to the source and you ask him.
Right, good job by you.
Listen, he could have been lying to me, but I have a good relationship with Brock, and he was pretty honest with his answers, so I do tend to believe him.
All right, well, let's find out what the people in the chat have to say. Let's go to Questions Brewing.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead. Ask us a question.
Yeah, it's time for Questions Brewing. Edzo and Happy J, how y'all doing over there?
We're treading water back here. A lot
Treading the bottom of the water?
Treading water.
No, you're treading the bottom.
Oh yeah, I remember that one
I just
week.
physics, but yeah.
Yeah, we are. There's slight technical difficulties, but we're surviving.
You're powering through.
We're surviving. We're powering through.
How's everybody in the chat?
Inquisitive.
Oh, okay. Well, let's fire away.
We've been talking about Lou a bit, so why don't we just go into a Lou question here?
Sure.
This one's from the sloppiest of tunas, Sloppy Tuna. We know Lou values keeping things close to the vest. With all of the trade talks, around the Isles pending free agents, I'm curious if that is coming from Lou easing his stance on sharing information, or from media personnel getting better or more creative about finding out what's going on in the Islanders' front office.
I would say the latter on that one. I don't think anyone has information that comes from Lou because, one, like you said, Lou does not leak anything. Anything I've ever reported does not come from Lou's mouth or the Islanders' mouth. It's with conversations with other teams because that's how you have to do it with Lou. So I think people are getting more creative. I don't think you should believe everything that someone says because all the comments are the same, whether it's valuable information or not. Well, Lou never would have said this, so it's false. I don't think that's true. I'm obviously biased because I'm reporting some of this stuff, but I'm not in the business also of just sharing information for the sake of sharing information. Like, I have a credibility, I have a career I'm trying to build here or keep building. Like, I'm sharing stuff that I hear that I truly believe. Now, there are times where that stuff maybe doesn't turn out the way. Like, this stuff is all what would you call the word? It's always changing. Like, you could find something out yesterday, and then by tomorrow or 24 hours later, that information is no longer relevant because something else happened. So just trust your sources. We're getting close to the deadline. You're going to hear a lot of stuff, but the information that people are sharing, when it's about the Islanders, is not from Lou.
Next up from Sean Cameron on YouTube.
Great name.
He says, Hi, Sean and Stefen. Sean here from Isles Meetups, Calgary.
Hey, what's up?
Currently en route back home from Winnipeg. Thoughts on Dobson, please. Would Dobson, if traded, bring 2 top 6 forwards?
2 top 6 forwards.
So I spoke to Dobson's agent today because there was a story that went out yesterday that the Islanders were shopping Dobson. If you read the story, it's not like they're just dangling him to anyone, which I think people got misconstrued there. The report had said that
calls.
Right. The report had said that Dobson could be moved for a top end player. Now, diving back, just being realistic here, if the Islanders are going to trade Dobson, which they don't have to do, he's a pending RFA, they could sign him long term or a bridge deal, whatever. He cannot be the best player in the trade. Like the Rantanen deal. Like the Avalanche were never going to win that trade. They were giving up the best player in the trade regardless of what happened. So for the Islanders, for a guy, for example, like a Pettersson, I know the Vancouver Canucks have a lot of interest in Dobson. I know the Islanders have a very big interest in Pettersson. To get Pettersson, the Islanders would probably have to start with Dobson.
Yeah, I would think so.
You just look at it, just common sense, looking at what the Islanders have and the assets they don't have. Your young 25-year-old 70-point defenseman from last year who still has time to improve, like he's going to be of utmost value to every team. If I'm any team that's willing to trade with the Islanders and I'm giving up a big top-end player, whoever that, like an Ehlers or a Kyrou, like the first person I'm saying is, okay, if you want our top guy, I want Noah Dobson. Like, it's just common sense. Everyone's saying, oh, Dobson sucks. Like, that's not the case at all. Dobson is incredibly valuable. We're seeing right now in the lineup, like, are the Islanders playing better without Dobson? Yes. Does that mean that the Islanders aren't better with him in the lineup or aren't better with Pulak? No. Jens Chalowski's barely playing minutes right now.
Right.
So I think people don't understand exactly how trades have to work, where to get, you have to give. And Dobson's tremendously valuable. I don't think they are shopping him to the sake of, hey, we'll trade Dobson for picks and prospects. No. If the Islanders are going to move Dobson at any point, it's because they're getting a top flight forward. I think that's the idea. 2 top flight forwards?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think I don't think it'd be a 1-for-1. I think cap reasons, especially if it's a Pettersson, there's just too much money involved for it to be a 1-for-1. That being said, you're not moving Dobson unless you think you're getting a player that could be a franchise-altering player for you going forward.
Maybe you can get 2 high-end prospects.
Right, but again, I don't think the Islanders would do...
unproven talent.
Right.
But
what's the point of the Islanders doing that?
They're not going for that. Correct. But 2 top forwards, that's
too much,
I don't think so,
Yeah. Tom Boyle would like to know if trades, waivers, and transactions can occur during the Four Nations.
Yes.
Yes,
There is no roster freeze. I think teams can return to practice some point next week. But I don't think there will be trade. I think Pierre LeBrun or someone speculated, I think it's going to be quiet during this time. But usually if there's a lot of quietness, that means things are in the works, I think.
Especially in Lou's
But yeah,
town.
that's the news, is that you can be traded. There's no roster freeze like there was during the Christmas break.
Will 17 see the ice again?
I don't think so. One, Gacom's playing over him right now, and so is Pierre. Hudson Fashing's healthy. And if the Islanders do add, you're probably going to move people down the pecking order. So I think it's going to be really tough for Martin to get in there, even if there are injuries, I think there are other options now that might benefit the team more.
I am going to go against Stefen's opinion and say I think because of injuries, he will end up getting in at least one game before the season's over.
I think if they are out of it towards the end of the year, they might.
That increases the chances
Exactly.
tremendously.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to freedom, fun, adventure. He says,
All right.
Yeah, right. I mean, amazing. This roster has talent, but the infection of inconsistent play, zero passion, lack of winning, scoring physicality has been an issue despite new faces. Don't you believe major moves are needed?
Well,
I would say that was an issue in 2024. I don't know if that's an issue right now. Now, granted, we need to see more than just the month of January and the first week of February. But one thing that we've consistently said on this show is, despite the results, they have been playing their asses off. They have been trying to win hockey
questioning
games.
passion's a little.
Yeah,
tough
I don't see that at all. I have a hard disagree on that. I think they've been playing hard every night, and that's not, to pat them on the back for being the Islanders or anything like that. That's just what I'm seeing out there. If I didn't see them giving it their all, I'd be like, yeah, these guys are mailing it in. They're tuned out. I don't think that's the case. Now, granted, mistakes. Obviously, we saw what happened in the first half of the season, and it wasn't pretty. To go to your last point about maybe having to shake things up, that could still be the case. Right. Despite that, you might just need better players, of course. And I think that's been a theme of this entire season, where we talk about guys getting older, even though Lee is completely proving that theory wrong, playing great. Pajot's having a better season. But overall, it looked like this team was very much in need of a change before the calendar turned.
Yeah.
Now they're reeling us back in and making us say, I don't know, maybe they just need to switch a couple things up here. Now, I don't know if this makeshift defense that they brought in is the answer, but they've certainly made things a little better, a little more exciting with the way that they're playing. We got to see a longer sample size out of those guys, because there's a reason why they were cast off by their other teams, right? We're talking waivers, we're talking KHL, and we're talking 5th round pick. So let's see what those guys do over the long term, right? So I'm with you there that you may have to see just if this team needs some more overhaul, and if they do tank from here on out until the trade deadline, you probably will see some selling off, and I think there's going to be some kind of molding of this team this summer because of the Palmieris, the Pajots, the Nelsons, even the Lees to a lesser extent, all on the wrong side of 30, all making a decent amount of money. I think there will be some sort of remolding of the squad this summer.
And he followed up by asking, do you agree that draft position trading guys for assets / retool, adding new types is the Isles' best case scenario, basically?
Repeat that? Sorry.
He says, do you agree that draft position, trading guys for assets / retooling, adding new type is the Isles' best case?
Well, this is the situation. If you're going to trade a guy like Brock Nelson for draft picks, you have to then find another 30-plus goal scorer or whatever in free agency, which is not easy to do, and you're going to have to bid. So, yeah, draft matters, but I think draft matters mostly to get those assets to flip them. Because if you're going to rely on the draft, you're rebuilding, and this Islanders team can't do that.
There you go.
Yeah. Next up from Aaron, he asks, how can a team be so bad on the power play for so long and not make a coaching change? It shouldn't be only on the players. The strategy sucks and can easily be a difference maker in games.
Well, I think, it's tough to make an in-season change like that. That's usually reserved for the end of the season. Also, if you want to see Stefen and I argue about that, you can go to the Patreon. We talked about that very question about whether the Islanders should make firings because of the struggles on special teams. Go to patreon.com/HockeyNightNY. A little plug there. But, listen, I agree in the sense that, geez, we're into February and the power play is still. I mean, thank God the penalty kill has picked it up.
Another couple of penalty kills last night too. Huge penalty kills.
No doubt about it. And we wouldn't be talking about this winning streak, even just the overall change in play here, if not for the penalty kill getting it together. So in a way, I mean, whether it saves his job or not, but in a way, the penalty kill has kind of bailed out John McClain because they're able to win games now despite how poor the power play has been. And it's frustrating because you look at that power play in the third period last night and they did everything but score. What, they put up 7 shots, 9 shots?
They were in the zone
7 shots in that power play.
Everything.
And you face a goaltender in Connor Hellebuck. Now, does that mean you look back and say, oh, well, the Islanders have just faced good goalies? No, of course not.
They also changed up their power. They have Boquist in the bumper on the top unit.
That's a choice.
And I liked what you saw. He was gritty to get pucks, lift sticks. Like, he didn't have to do a lot, and the puck didn't really come to him for a shot, but he took up the right amount of space. And, like, if you've played, obviously, for a goalie when you're on the penalty kill and that guy's in the middle just creating havoc or lifting sticks, like that play, that 1 split-second play creates, like, 2 or 3 different options for a guy.
Yeah.
So when you see a guy in the bumper and doing all that stuff, and also, you don't even know, like, can Boquist let one rip? Probably. Yeah. So you're thinking, okay, he's just there to be like a statue and just make some plays. And the puck finds him and he rips one. Like, you're in trouble. So I think it's very interesting the Islanders have gone that route. They're not doing that if he's never played there before. But it's interesting that Horvat is now out of the bumper and they have Adam Bovequist in the bumper. Right. And that power play absolutely dominated.
Right.
Without scoring, of course.
So as far as, responsibility for the power play and the staff goes, I think you wait till the summer. And then, look, let's just assume that Lou Lamoriello is still the GM and Patrick Waugh is still the head coach. I think those two at least sit down and say, we got to talk about the power play. And by extension, we got to talk about John McClain.
Yeah, I think Benoit gets a bigger role. I just think you're seeing it like the faceoffs. They're still first place in faceoffs.
Yeah.
They're dominant. And no disrespect to John McClain, but you're not firing the team. You're not really moving. I mean, maybe D'Angelo a full year at the point if he comes back next year, it changes things. The Barzal being healthy.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's just very hard. Like, it's not even personal with John. It's like, hey, just look at how the power play's been. We need a fresh look for these guys. So I think it's a lot on the players. Like we've talked about in Patreon, you could check it out. But at some point, you got to make a coaching change. And if the power play ends the year struggling the way it's struggled, and that plays a part in why the Islanders miss, or if they make the playoffs, it doesn't help get them past the first round. You're going to look at John McClain and be like, listen, like we just have to make a change.
There you go.
Yeah. This one from MJ Beckman. I believe he means in the first part of this, can Sean name what team is playing tomorrow? And bonus question, can he name who won last year?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, the Super Bowl. He's talking about the Super Bowl. So I know the Chiefs played last year.
Oh, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know this is another. This is back-to-backs for them. Who did they play last year? This is actually an awesome question because I'm honestly like racking my brain trying to remember. So I don't think
I thought he was talking hockey. I was like, I wouldn't see why he wouldn't know who's playing tomorrow.
So it's Philly this year. It's Philly tomorrow. That I know. Who played last year? It's not the same team again. It's not Philly again, right? See, I got Jake here as my. This is perfect. Yeah, no, you know what? I don't remember. I'm gonna come clean. I don't remember. I'm trying like as I'm talking, but
do you want a hint?
The truth is, like, it's the Super Bowl for me, guys. I get together with my friends and I enjoy the commercials more than I do the game. It's just true.
All right, Jake, who played last year?
Yeah, just tell us.
San Francisco 49ers.
That rings a bell.
There you go.
I remember those copper and red jerseys.
And the Kansas City.
I said that. The Chiefs.
You did.
Yeah,
okay, I was listening.
I got it half right, and that's enough for me.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes, that was fun.
Next up from DTMR, what are your thoughts on the Islanders trying to get Trent Frederick? We need that type of player.
We actually leaving yesterday. Leaving last show. I was talking about Trent Frederick. I think Boston's going to sell. I think he's a perfect bottom six guy. He's definitely a Waugh kind of guy. I don't know if the Islanders want to go get a depth guy. Like Barzal being out is painful for them in terms of you need to fill that hole if you can, if you're going to compete. God bless you, Jay. I think Frederick's great. I just look at the Islanders lineup right now, and you have Gackman and McLean, and you have Cizikas and Pajot. Like he's a bottom six center, so you have to kind of fit him. I think definitely if the Islanders are moving a Pajot or moving a Brock, like he would be a great fit. I just don't know in the bottom six right now. Could you say he's an upgrade over McLean? 1,000%. But if the Islanders need to use their assets to get a Barzal replacement or things like that, they should focus there. But yeah, he's a great depth option.
Ed, one more.
All right. Well, we have one more just in.
Perfect.
From Matt on YouTube. He says, who would you guys prefer as a trade if we ship Dobson? EP40, Kyrou, Ehlers, which is the most realistic, and what would we have to add to Dobson to get it done?
If the Islanders are trading Dobson, and that's a strong if, I don't believe they're just going to trade him to trade him. Pettersson has the highest ceiling out of all three of those guys.
Yep.
He costs the most, so you probably have to throw in a Danny Nelson, a draft pick, to get him, depending on how many teams are in on him. I just think getting him back with Horvat would be so good for Pettersson and Horvat as well. They're very close. And I think if you look at a lineup of, I would put Barzal on the left or right, who cares? Pettersson, Horvat, Barzal. That's a deal. Nikolai Ehlers is over a point per game. He scored against the Islanders last night. The Islanders did have talks about trying to get him at the draft. There were definitely talks there. He's got injury concern. That'd be tough there, especially long term. But a lineup of Barzal, Horvat, Ehlers, very fast. Jordan Kyrou, to me, is probably your best Barzal replacement for this year. Then you have Barzal, Horvat, Kyrou. These are all great options. I think Pettersson's the guy to get because of how high his ceiling is. I would say Kyrou's probably the safest bet. His no trade kicks in July 1st, so time is of the essence to get any of these guys. And Ehlers also is a pending UFA. You're not trading from unless you sign an extension. Pettersson's in year one of an 8-year deal, so he's not going anywhere.
And I don't think you're upset if you get any of those guys. And then you just scale down what you're giving back the other way, depending on who it is. You start at Dobson with Pettersson plus, then it goes down from, to Kyrou, then down to Ehlers. He's a little older, all that, the injury stuff. So he would probably be the most gettable as far as what you're giving up, right?
Right.
But I wouldn't be unhappy with any of those guys.
Listen, if they're selling, they're getting a player that could help now and in the future, and that's all you could ask for. Because, like people were saying, what about Besser? I really do think Besser is going to hit free agency, and he's also injury prone. Like, there's no reason for Lou to get a rental.
So, Stefen, before we go, I have one question for you, because there's been all of this talk over the last week about, Nelson's name coming up, Dobson's name coming up. Is Lou working the phones? Apparently, they have been listening on Dobson, right? So, and we'll update this between now and the trade deadline. But right now, what's your feeling? Is this team going to buy? They're going to sell? Or are they going to stand pat, or a mix of buying and selling?
Yeah, I would lean right. Lou is definitely working the phones. Contrary to popular belief, he has a phone and he uses it.
He's got two if you look at the photograph.
Yes, yeah, right. He's working the phones. I think there is a very heavy interest in Pettersson. Like, I've been told numerous times that they love Pettersson. I think Horvat has a big say in this because he knows the guy. I don't think they're going to stand pat because they do have cap space. And if Lou's already shown belief in this group to get the 3 defensemen he's got, he's going to keep. If they win tonight or they get close enough to the deadline, he's going to show faith in this group again. You can't say I'm going to show faith, get these guys, and be like, you know what, never mind, because you have the newfound cap space. So I don't think they're standing pat. They did stand pat last year. I don't think they're standing pat. I think that we'll see a combination of buying and selling.
Buying and selling.
Well, I think to give to get. So, like, for example, if you're trading Dobson and getting Pettersson, like, that's buying and selling.
Yeah, that's true. It's just selling of a different nature. Usually when you envision selling, it's usually getting rid of the upcoming UFAs and stuff like that, right?
I think there's a very strong chance Palmieri would get moved.
Okay.
Of all the guys, and then maybe you flip the assets. I don't think Brock Nelson's going anywhere.
We'll find out.
We will.
Time will tell. Okay. All right. Well, that will do it for Questions Brewing. And before we go, I want to remind you about that Patreon. Over at patreon.com/HockeyNightNY. Exclusive content featuring Q&As, columns, videos, behind-the-scenes merch and partner discounts, and even an invitation to hang with us here at Florida Media. And most importantly, Happy J at Florida Media here in Rockville Center. You can hang with us during a broadcast. You can ask us a question during Questions Brewing live on the air. Maybe even sneak in a question for the guest. We always have a good time, so give it some consideration. Patreon.com/HockeyNightNY. Great way to support the show. And of course, don't forget, a week from tonight, viewing party, Borelli's Tap Room down in Long Beach, USA, Canada, 8 p.m. puck drop, 6:30 Hockey Night New York pregame show. Raffles, prizes, giveaways, and just a lot of joy and food and drink specials and lots of fun. So come on down. It's going to be a good time. Best on best. Matthews versus McDavid. Can't get any better than that. And with that out of the way, we can wrap this thing up. So, right off the bat, big thanks to Jessi Pierce of NHL.com for hanging out with us in a pinch and talking Minnesota Wild. Hopefully we can get Michael Russo on the show down the road, but great stuff from Jessi. And of course, a big thanks to our wonderful sponsors, starting with Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Find out how to unplug your game at mainstboardgamecafe.com. Also, a big thanks to Center Station Bar and Grill. Head on down to 279A Sunrise Highway in Rockville Center for Isles games, live music, karaoke, comedy shows, and more. They do it all. A big thanks to Razor and Kniff, attorneys at law. Nobody likes going to court, but if you have to, call 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And of course, last but not least, Tovey Hockey, creators of the Diamond Air Blade. Go to toveyhockey.com to check out the great products and use promo code H9Y10 for 10% off your order. And folks, if you haven't done it already, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show because that makes us feel good. Stefen, where can we find you on the internet?
Yes, you can find me at Stefen_Rosner, STEFEN_ROSNER, the Hockey News, NHL.com, and my weekly newsletter, The Elmonters, at theelmonters.com.
Is the Elmonters HQ located in Elmont?
Yes.
That's a lie. All right, moving on. You can find myself on Twitter at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on all social media platforms. Jake the Snake Radonis, where can we find you?
You can find me on X at Jake Radonis, JakeRadonis.
Thank you for the spell check. All right, folks. Also, check out the website, HockeyNightNY.com. We told you about the Patreon. After tonight, 2-week break, but we're going to still talk about international hockey. We'll obviously recap the game at the viewing party next week, so come down if you can. Still tune in live at 6:30.
Ilya Sorokin starts tonight, back-to-back for him.
Yes, that's right. We said that before, but there's nothing wrong with saying that again.
Just alerted it, yep. So.
All right, fair enough. So, for Stefen Rosner, for Jake the Snake Radonis, for Edzo and the happiest of Jays, I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York. We will see you at Borelli's.